Hi, this is Richard Fields with this week's Report from the Fields. The utter ugliness of the anti-immigrant hysteria sweeping the United States under the second Trump administration was plain for all to see in San Diego recently. Three examples were reported upon by the New York Times. Stephen Paul entered a San Diego federal building with his British wife, Katie, and their 4-month-old baby for the final step of completing Katie's naturalization process. Instead, federal immigration agents arrested Katie to send her to an immigration detention center. Stephen had to take their baby from her crying mother's arms and then take leave from his job at the San Diego Sheriff's Office to care for his baby and try to secure his wife's release. Audrey Hesberg and her German husband, Thomas Bilger, a robotics engineer, were answering questions from an immigration officer. The last question was whether he had ever overstayed his visa. When he answered truthfully, he was ambushed by 3 masked men in bulletproof vests with guns, who told Tom they had a warrant for his arrest, according to the Times. He remains in an ICE detention center. Jason Cordero's Mexican wife, Ludmila, was likewise arrested and is reportedly having panic attacks in the ICE detention center where she was sent. So far, only Katie Paul has been released. These are all immigrants who have endeavored to successfully navigate the labyrinthine U.S. immigration maze. So much for the arguments who claim to support legal immigration but decry illegal immigration. As the Cato Institute has pointed out, worldwide, effectively only about 1% of people who want to move legally to the United States can actually do so. All of the arguments against immigration are mostly bunk anyway. The argument that immigrants will be a drain on the welfare system is refuted by simple statistics. Numerous studies have shown that the percentage of native-born Americans on welfare far exceeds the percentage of illegal immigrants, legal or illegal on welfare. And even if that argument was factually valid, the solution is simple. Allow immigration with the proviso that any immigrant who applied for welfare of any kind would be immediately returned to their country of origin. The argument that immigrants won't assimilate doesn't sync with history. Irish, Italians, Poles, Chinese, Japanese, Mexican, and dozens of other nationalities have successfully assimilated over the years. The argument that immigrants will take our jobs is easily refuted by elementary logic. Every immigrant is both a potential worker and unquestionably a consumer. That what is produced by labor will be consumed. So the net effect on the overall labor market of immigration is zero. Depending on the skills of migrants, the competition for some jobs may be higher and for other jobs lower. So even if the take our jobs argument were valid, it's really a protectionist argument, and protection from competition is hardly defensible from a libertarian perspective. Finally, the argument that immigrants are more likely to be criminals or terrorists is refuted by multiple statistical studies. Most show that by an order of magnitude that native-born Americans are far more likely to be involved in criminal activity than are immigrants, legal or illegal. And then there's demographic reality. Without immigration, the population of the United States is set to start to decline as early as 6 years from now. Despite what anti-immigrant nativists and zero population growth zealots would tell you, a decline in population is historically almost always correlated with a decline in economic activity and societal wealth. That's not something libertarians or most anyone else can get excited about. That's this week's Report from the Fields. I'm Richard Fields. See you again next week.